when we were in Egypt together and we're at Aswan, they actually have a granite block with these dolerite hammers that are, round dolerite black stones that are like 8-10 pounds a pop, and you're allowed to bang away at it. I have video of one of my videos on YouTube. It's me doing it, and if you ever take an 8 to 10 pound weight and start banging across, first of all, it feels like you're going to get arthritis within a few minutes. And you see that you're only chipping away particles of dust. It is the least feasible explanation ever. And anyone that simply picks up one of these dolerite hammers and bangs away on a piece of granite themselves will see that it's nonsense. And not only that, those scoop marks that you mentioned, I don't know, Jamie, if you're able to type in Aswan unfinished obelisk and you see these scoops, they're symmetrical. It doesn't make sense that would be done by handwork. See, that's what we're talking about. And that's in rose granite. That's as hard as a rock, so to speak.
I'm having a hard time understanding how that's even possible.
It looks like it was sandblasted, if
it's something that's scooping the granite out. You actually have these test pits as well, like these pits that go down like 15, 20 feet.
Look at the size of that obelisk.
You have these holes around the side of it where they call them test pits because what you want to do, and gets back to my comment about the ability to quarry granite, is the quality of granite that it takes to take an object like that, or like it's actually from a guy that went on my tour. The quality of granite that it takes to make large objects like that, and a lot of the quality of granite that we see on the Giza Plateau, you're talking 30 feet.
There's a test pit.
Yeah, that's a test pit. They're like 30 feet inside a granite mountain. None of that. You don't get this quality of granite at the surface level with just granite pieces lying around. And you can go to Giza today, 4th dynasty, and look at the blocks of granite that were hanging off the Valley Temple or the Pyramid Temple, and they're huge crystal occlusions in them. Like, this stuff came from the core of granite mountains. You can't say that the dynastic and the Old Kingdom guys didn't have the ability to quarry granite. Maybe they didn't, but whoever made those granite blocks sure as hell did, because that's where it comes from.
Real quick, this image right down here, that black rock is the dolerite hammer, and when Ben was just mentioning from underneath these scoop marks, so they wanted to claim that that's how they did it, that they were banging away with this rock basically upwards.
Well, yeah, you actually there's a consistent line. So on the wall behind where we're standing, it's like 20 feet high, and you'll see a horizontal ridge that runs all the way down that line underneath and then up underneath the other piece of rock. It's like this consistent groove.
This is exactly what I did.
He's banging on it with a dolerite pounder.
Nothing about this is fun.
And are they trying to say that this is how they did it? Is that what
they make you watch a video, Joe?
They indoctrinate you at this site. It's the one site where they sit you down and make you watch a video before you're allowed to go out and look at the site.
Like 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah, you got to sit there.
They make you watch it?
Yeah. There's a video that says, this is how they did it. It was incredible. And
they're insistent. And what's wild is that if you just do it, when you do something yourself, you realize just like, that's not, I don't know how they did it, but it wasn't this. There we go. I filmed this. These are wonderful gentlemen that traveled with us to Egypt back in November.
A couple of engineers there.
Yeah. Yep.
So it is possible to do that with the stone, but not feasible, and certainly not on the scale of those obelisks.
So that's right. There's been some tests that have been done, and I get into it, and I think it's something like, I got to say, about 70 cubic centimeters or something like that you can remove with that method over a solid hour. And I think it's either 50 or 70, but put it this way, it's 3/4 the volume of a golf ball, or 2/5 the volume of a chicken egg. Like, that's how much material you can remove in an hour by just non-stop pounding of granite dust. That's the best estimate we have. So what you got to imagine is that entire trench around this obelisk. Bear in mind the trench is only 2/3 as deep as it needs to be to remove a square section. But if you filled that whole thing up with golf balls and added another 25%, that's the number of hours it might take to do.
Go back to that past image
with that method.
Is the idea that obelisk was left there because of the crack?
Yeah, it developed. Supposedly, what they tell you is it developed a crack across the center, and they left it there. Now, I think the crack could be the result of later quarrying attempts. When they found this, it was utterly buried. Like, there was one small section of it poking out, but the rest of it at the bottom here was like under 9 meters of rubble, and there were other big quarried blocks. I actually think this could have been here long. I think the Egyptians were using the quarry, but I think this object could have been, they just poured stuff onto it. It just was at the oldest part of the quarry.
And what's the wackiest explanation for these scoop marks?
Wackiest? I mean,
yeah, like not worried whatsoever about people's interpretation of you and your ability to discern reality. Like, what?
It's like some sort of molecular.
No! Don't you dare! I see what you're doing. I'm watching you.
It's It's like some sort of molecular softening tool that just comes in and scoops it out. Like somehow it gets between the
molecular softening tool.
like can soften the stone, can change the molecular bonds beneath the stone because it's made up of all these granites, like a composite material made up of a bunch of different types of hornblende and crystal quartz and a bunch of stuff like that, and then just being able to somehow scoop it out. I don't know. It's as if it looks that way when you look at it. Like you've got to think it's either some sonic tool. There's something going on that is enabling them to scoop that material out of there in an effortless fashion. These scoops in places, it's almost as if they articulate. Like we see in places, at a recent observation we made, they're not just straight down, but they bend. So imagine a backhoe arm. It's digging here, and it does this. And you see that in some of these scoops. There's an articulation to these lines. So maybe there was a tool that was anchored, and it almost looks like it had a very flexible tip, but it was some rotating tool that just chewed out this stone. And that's where Chris Dunn goes with it is, there may be some sort of rotating tool. The interesting thing about the quarry also is that there is drawings on the wall of the quarry where there's all these scoop marks of these ostriches, and it matches pre-dynastic drawings. So it's almost as if there were people in that quarry making paintings on earlier done scoop marks before the dynastic Egyptian civilization even started. So I think that scoop mark stuff is absolutely a part of this ancient lost civilization. There was and it's one of their working areas. There's a tremendous value in seeing unfinished work because we get to have a little bit of insight into, how did this tool potentially function?
Yeah.
How did it work? But you have to have an open mind to kind of look at it that way. We see the same thing on a couple of objects that are unfinished. There's some incontrovertible evidence for machining and things like that in other objects.
It hurts my brain. It really does, because you start thinking like, what happened? Like, what are we talking about? Like, what kind of technology was available then? Like, when you think about a completely different branch of technology that was achieved 20,000 years ago or whatever it was, you really, there's nothing there. Like, you're just spinning your wheels, just guessing.
Right.
Do not search for the terms discussed in this video on